Welcome to the very first episode of Let's Play WCCW Return to the Territories. As I said in the background video a few weeks ago, or a month, whenever I recorded that video, the territory system went through the United States for the entirety of the 1980s and early 1990s. But around the beginning of the 1990s, every territory was out of business. And the only ones that survived were Pacific Northwest and Memphis Wrestling, aka Championship Wrestling Association. And due to that, companies like World Class Wrestling, Mid-South Wrestling, Southwest Wrestling, and Championship Wrestling for Florida, as well as various others, went by the wayward way and went out of business. But where did their talent go? Well, their talent ended up in companies like New Japan and WWE, the WCW and the AWA, as well as Memphis. But that's at least a decade from now, the period I'm talking about. Let's prove the naysayers wrong. Let's prove time travel actually does exist as we head back to 1983 for the first episode of World Class Championship Wrestling, Reliving the Territories. So let's head now to the first match. It is the pre-show match between Missing Link and Toli Hatsue. If you missed hearing about Toli Hatsue, then check out the most recent shoot interview I did with James Beard if you want to know more about Toli Hatsue or Texas wrestling in general, as that was the discussion or the topic of discussion for my most recent monthly discussion video with the legendary Texas referee. Either way, the Missing Link is victorious, and now we kick off the broadcast by Mark Lawrence, with Mark Lawrence, the lead announcer, standing in the ring and introducing Texas wrestling legend Jose Lothario. And Jose Lothario makes his way out to the ring and introduces. First, he talks about his career and how wrestling has given more to him than he could ever ask for, but now it's time, at this point in his career, for him to start giving back. So, with that being said, he wants to start giving back by mentoring the young talent and the new stars of tomorrow, and that is why he is introducing his first client. His name is El Hijo del Tejas. And Jose introduces El Hijo del Tejas as Tejas comes down to the ring. And Jose just says, if Gary Hart wants to bring in people from Japan, then why can't I bring in people from south of the border to help us in world class stay on the up and up and ahead of everyone else in the wrestling world, and show why world class is exactly the place where everyone wants to be. And though that promo wasn't that good, in my opinion, it just gets to the point across. Del Tejas must be a prized possession over in Mexico, to actually be able to come on an excursion to world-class wrestling and even be mentored by a legend like Jose Lothario. But either way, let's jump into the first match as El Hijo del Tejas steps into the ring against Rip Morgan, and Del Tejas wins his debut by submission. And with a 64 in-ring performance, El Hijo de Tejas puts up a very good performance in his debut. And you just hear Bill Mercer. I actually don't remember what this is. Oh, Bronco Lubick. And you hear Bill Mercer and Mark Lawrence highly praise Del Tejas for how good he is doing in his debut, and how maybe, just maybe, the expectations are not set too high with Del Tejas' association now with Jose Lothario. And yes, Jose Lothario is that guy who trained Shawn Michaels and also was at ringside with Shawn for his Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12 with Bret the Hitman Hart. Now we move forward with our second match, and it simply is a 6-man tag team match with the Von Erich boys. And the Von Erichs are basically a little advice. When you start playing a game, a season in TEW, go through all the feuds and get rid of the alliances. Because if you have it where they're in an alliance, segments are the only thing that count. Matches don't. So if you break up the alliance, then whenever you put them in a match together, like if I put David, Kerry, and Kevin all in a match together, then it would count towards their feud against the Freebirds, but now it doesn't, because they're all in an alliance, which sucks. So I gotta change that. And apparently the Samoan thinks he'd be better off without Skandar Akbar. This is a pretty good match. A pretty good match between two very solid individuals. I'm at a loss for words because I didn't expect the match to get a 72. So I'm happy that the match got a 72. And I'm also happy that Kabuki won, because I'm a fan of Kabuki, but anytime I was with World Class, or I've become a fan of Kabuki, and anytime I was with World Class in the past, I never really knew how to use Kabuki, but maybe I do now. And now Mark Lawrence re-enters the ring as he gets thoughts. He gets words from Gary Hart about what we can expect from the great Kabuki upcoming in 1983. And Gary Hart says, Kabuki is the most dangerous man in Texas wrestling, and in 1983, he will not only prove that he is the most dangerous man in Texas, but he will win a title to prove it. Or, if you people need more convincing, he will win a title to help further convince you just how dangerous my Kabuki is. And Jose Lothario, you want to mention me and how I have brought Kabuki in? Don't play with fire before you're ready to get burned. Now we head to a simple squash match as King Kong Bundy goes up against Terry Daniels, and Bundy is victorious and quickly sends Terry back to wherever he came from pretty easily. Or he sends Terry back to where he came from pretty easily. And now we move to the next match as Terry Bam Bam Gordy goes up against Al Madrill in, once again, very similar to the previous match, a squash match, because I had no intention of letting Al Madrill beat Terry Gordy, but either way, Al Madrill does lose to Bam Bam in not so much a squash match, but still with the same concept of Madrill was never going to win. Now we head to the main event. Killer Tim Brooks against, yes, Bruiser Brody. Next to the Von Erichs, Brody is the top star in Texas. And once again, you guys, this may be the first time that you're seeing some of these names. If it is, God bless you. Because some of these names are names that never get talked about but should, because of their influence and their impact on the wrestling industry. And Bruiser Brody is one of those people because he was one of the most agile big men and one of the most over big men, or most over gaijins in Japan for a time. And he got over everywhere. Yes, he was hard to work with, but he was hard to work with the people he didn't like. I've learned a lot about Brody, and I gotta say, he was a good man. Alrighty then. Okay. I learned my lesson. I gotta advance some sort of angle in the show. Unfortunately, because, you know, if the stupid game didn't make it where everybody was an alliance, then the Von Erichs versus the Freebirds would have been advanced by the Von Erichs 6-man tag team match. But I can always just wait till next week when the Freebirds will be seen in action, and maybe, just maybe, the continuation of Gary Hart's, maybe, well, I'll leave you guessing. Am I planting the seeds for something between Gary Hart and Jose Lothario? Or is something actually going to happen very soon with Kabuki and El Hijo del Tejas? Either way, next week on World Class Wrestling, you will see the Freebirds in action, and pretty much anybody who you didn't see in action on this week's program. Until then, if you want to know more about any of these people, let me know down anybody you saw on this show. Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, as always, feedback is more than welcomed and appreciated. But if you don't want to leave a comment, then you can of course leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time. Later.